Hi, I'm Monica Kalra, and I'm the founder of Revorce. I assist professional women of color, especially the Indian women, to revive their confidence, reclaim their inner power, and reset emotionally for thriving relationships in the future. This episode, in which I had the honor to speak to Prosper, we dealt into various issues of why divorce is a stigma. You will also be able to hear about how important it is to work on yourselves um, before you date someone or before you even get into an arranged marriage. And at the same time, you will also learn why it's important to do the inner work on yourself first, because the quality of your life depends on the quality of your relationship. You will see and hear from me on how, when you've also applied for a divorce, that you can thrive thereafter, that there is a life after divorce. And divorce is just a twist in the story. It's not the end of your story. So there is life after divorce. Even though there might be uncertainties, there is life after divorce. And we reach a state where you begin to be grateful to that relationship in order to get you to where you are. You find golden nuggets in that previous relationship, which enable you to understand yourself better so that you can thrive in your future relationships.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Tarovinga, and today we have an extraordinary guest who's on a mission to empower professional women of color, particularly those in the Indian community, to navigate divorce as a transformative journey. Now, she's the founder of Revorce, a platform that focuses on reviving confidence, reclaiming power, and resetting emotionally. Now, please join me in welcoming Monica. Monica, it is a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Prosper, for having me. I'm absolutely honored and blessed to be here and to be sharing this space with you. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, judging from the work that you're doing, helping other women, find recourse in their lives, just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what actually brought you to start doing this kind of work.
So basically, Prosper, I was not in a very amicable relationship for 21 years. When I ended my marriage, that was the time when I seriously had to look into my relationship and my marriage as to why it had become dysfunctional. That led me to study relationship skills for 2.5 years. And I realized I had my own role to play in the marriage. I had to take responsibility about my own role. And thereafter, I became a qualified and a certified mentor in order to coach professional women of color so that I could assist them not only to improve their relationships, however, assist them, especially the ones who were going through divorce, to revive their confidence, reclaim their inner power, and reset emotionally to thrive in future relationships. I particularly felt the importance to do this because relationship skills are not taught in schools. And we also don't learn much of these skills at home. We tend to be following the skills that we've seen from our parents or from our grandparents. And this is the expectation that we take into when we step into a relationship. However, there are so many layers to the skills that we can actually apply in order to have nurturing relationships.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing with us, that journey of yours. So you, like many other women, obviously you were, like you said, were married for that long, 21 years, and as you have stipulated, it was not an amicable sort of setup. Do you think there's a lot of people that are going through that, or is it a select number of people that might just be going through that because maybe they haven't done, like you say, taken ownership of their part of the relationship?
Prosper, this is, I personally feel that so far as not being in an amicable relationship is quite culturally ingrained, and it is an expectation from most of the women in color to somehow make the marriage work. I mean, if I talk about my own Indian culture, when we get married, we not only just get married for this lifetime, but we get married for 7 lifetimes. And therefore, when it comes and when you see that the relationship isn't working, then there are loads of things that come up because divorce still is stigmatized. And there are so many reasons for it. It's stigmatized because it's a cultural expectation, a cultural tradition to be in that marriage for lifetime. There are some even believe that it's a violation of their religious principles, whereas there is a lot of judgment around that as well. If you're divorced, it means it feels to the others that you've been a failure, and that you did not take ownership, and that you did not ensure that the marriage worked. So all the blame comes on you. I'll tell you a very interesting story that one of my clients shared the other day. And she gave me a call, and she was really crying a lot. And I obviously didn't know what had happened. So when I tried to inquire what had happened, she said, we recently had Diwali, which is one of the festival of lights for us in the Indian culture. And she said, because she's going through a divorce, she was alone at home. And she rang up one of her friends to ask her if she could join them for the Diwali celebration, especially for the prayers, because Diwali prayer is considered to be really auspicious and pious, and the whole family gets together to pray. So she wanted to be a part of that family setting with her friend. So the friend said, please don't mind it, but you are a divorcee now, and it is no longer auspicious for us to have someone who's a divorcee, but we would prefer to have someone who's married. And therefore, and she kept apologizing. However, she completely denied that she attend the prayers with them. And this obviously triggered, emotions in my client, and she called me up. So that's another reason that people prefer to be in abusive relationships. And however, they don't step up in order to divorce. The other reason that people tend to be in such relationships is also because of the well-being of their children. And they feel that the children need their fathers as much as they need their mother. And so for the well-being of the child, for the financial stability, the economic stability that you get in the family because of being a family unit, that people tend to continue being in those relationships rather than take a step and then move forward if it's not working.
Wow. From what I'm hearing from you, not only are you married to the man, but you're married to the culture, and you're married to the religion. And it's not only in this lifetime, but it's 7 lifetimes away. So that automatically means that if you decide to take the route of excluding yourself, like your client had to go through with her friends, you are literally orchestrated from the whole connection with your friends. So that must be very traumatic for a lot of people, and nobody wants to be sort of chased away from the clan, because inherently our own sort of thinking system or nervous system is always afraid of being taken away from our little clan, because then that would mean the animals will eat you, or you are just venturing by yourself. And is there a lot of people that speak out about this, or is it something that it's always been like that, so we can't change it?
There are things that are changing over the time period. However, it's still really stigmatized. And that's where I come in the picture, because someone like me is trying to normalize it, that yes, the marriage wasn't working, and therefore it is okay to step out of such a marriage, and that there is a life thereafter. People don't step out of their marriages also because of that fear of being abandoned or the fear of being ostracized. However, there is a life after divorce. And I'm an example there where I'm trying to normalize divorce by speaking up about it, by letting the world know how traumatizing it is to step out of such marriages. So through my posts or through my videos that I do, I try and encourage people to take ownership and try and provide that emotional support to them, that irrespective of where they want to be, whether in the relationship or outside the relationship, it's important to feel empowered. That if they wish to continue being in such a relationship, then that's a choice that they make. Most of my clients feel that they have no choice. There is definitely a choice. You can either leave the relationship, you can continue being in that relationship, or you can work with a coach in order to improve your relationship. So there's always a choice that we have. And if people want to stay in those relationships, it's about working on yourself. And if your partner can get on board to do the inner work with you, then it's equally important that you take that work together. However, I would like to bring another aspect here. Going and seeing a therapist or a psychologist or a coach is also quite stigmatized in our cultures. And they feel that there is something intellectually, there's something intellectually challenging to see such people, because we've had jokes in our culture where people say, oh, you must be mad, that's why you're seeing a psychologist. And that's the stigma they come up with. So people even hesitate to see a coach or hesitate to see a therapist because people would consider them to be mad in order to be approaching someone for assistance. However, I am seeing some shift there. Earlier, people thought that you were seeing a therapist or a psychologist if your marriage was on the rocks. Whereas now, people are also approaching therapists or coaches because they want to improve their relationships. And this is especially so amongst women. They're reading a lot of books, they are consuming a lot of podcasts in order to improve their relationship, still remain in that relationship, but somehow work upon it. So we are seeing a change, we are seeing a shift. However, it's slow. However, and I'm certain that as a society, it will take time, but things will definitely change.
Fantastic. It's good to know that things like that are happening, because I can visually understand that if the people around you would maybe laugh at you or stigmatize you for going to see someone in order to help your own relationship, that means a lot of people wouldn't actually step up and go and do things like that. But now the tables are turning a little bit. Maybe that sort of way of life would have been prevalent in a society where the man goes to work and the woman stays at home to look after the kids and the family. But in the society we live now, women also can hold interesting roles within their jobs, which means they now have access to all these sort of services and exposure to what's actually happening out there. Now, tell us a little bit about the sort of professional women of color that you end up working with, and how divorce can be a gateway to courage and also personal growth for them moving forward.
Prosper, that's a very interesting question, and that's very close to my heart. When we do go through a divorce, that's the time period when we are on a roller coaster of emotions. We're completely confused I remember I had lost all my, even though I had applied for divorce, I had lost all my confidence in my abilities. I was a working woman, I was a professional, and I just couldn't face society. There was such a tremendous, I would say, I was spiraling down into depression so quickly. I didn't think I had any power. I had lost my identity because there was a time when I was called Mrs. So and so. And all of a sudden, when I went on to my maiden name, yes, it was familiar, but it was so distant, and I could not relate with my maiden name anymore. So there are so many things that happen after you go through a divorce. Um, there are also issues related to mediation. There are legal processes happening. There is, you know, so far as your dreams are concerned about a marriage, the future that you thought you'd have together, everything is collapsing. And so you find yourself in a situation, and then most of all, you don't have much support of society, of your loved ones, and you find yourself completely abandoned and by yourself to fend for this life. However, when I went through that journey, there was this little spark in me that wanted to shine. There was this little spark in me that said that I was unique and that I was doing something extraordinary. And so I began the journey of doing a lot of inner work. I can't tell you the amount of courses that I have done and how much time and energy and finances that I have invested on myself to be where I am at the moment and to be able to speak and take along all those people who are in such relationships with me. Because you come to a stage where it's about being grateful to this relationship as well. It's about I personally feel so much gratitude towards that relationship, because that ultimately gave me an opening, a doorway into my purpose and my life, and what my values were. So I really started honing down on my values and found the purpose of my life in assisting such women and also men. It's not just women who are in abusive relationships, but even men find themselves in abusive relationships. However, they don't speak up that much. And in saying so, I would like to reiterate about my gratitude for this relationship, because now I can trace back my steps as to why I was in that relationship in the first place. And from there on, I see that this is where I had to be, because there was something bigger that the universe wanted me to accomplish. And that was coming through by working with professional women of color, and especially those who were going through a divorce or who wanted to improve their relationships. Because so far as relationships are concerned, our relationships, the quality of our relationships determine the quality of our life. And as such, I feel myself as a pioneer in order to ensure if I can even touch the life of one person and bring about a change there, I think my purpose would be done. And slowly, I think it's a ripple effect. So if one person can touch the hearts of two more, and so on and so forth, and we can have such amicable relationships all over.
Quite like that, because 21 years, having given that to something which obviously you've made that into your message, but not a lot of people would have that as a testimony. And 21 years is a lifetime for you to be in something that is not quite amicable. Now, this whole thing stems a lot deeper than just the night of your marriage and moving forward to 21 years later. You literally have these marriages arranged. Now, you now have a unique perspective in since having had one marriage that has been previously arranged, and obviously you may have tried to make it work, but it didn't. How has this sort of experience sort of influenced your coaching approach and understanding of what relationships are meant to be?
Prosper, such an interesting question. I can say that I have the lived experience and also the expertise to deal with this situation now. And I also feel that and as I mentioned earlier, since we are not taught relationship skills in schools or at home, therefore it becomes all the more imperative for a person like me who has the lived experience and the expertise to bring this knowledge over, and especially to women, because women have a ripple effect and they affect so many families around them. I still remember that after 19 years of my marriage, when I had for the first time spoken to my dad about it, that I wanted a divorce, my dad had said to me, "But how will I face my society? What about the honor that I have in my society? What will I tell people that my daughter is getting divorced?" I had to think for a while, and then I responded to say, "I've lived your life for 19 years. Now let me live my own." And after that, I was in that relationship for yet 2 more years before I finalized my divorce. So it is so deeply, as you mentioned, it is so deeply ingrained. And therefore, I take ownership here that I did bring dishonor to my family. I challenged the cultural values by applying for a divorce. And yet at the same time, I am proud of what I am doing because I see the uniqueness in myself. I see the courage it takes. And through that courage, I can imbibe that same courage in the others by sharing my story with them and to let them know that even if you are left alone, you can still stand. You can still bring light in the life of the others.
Wow. And has that relationship been rectified with your family or your close ones? How do people view this sort of work that you're doing, especially those that want to defend their honor and those that are really culturally bound? Do people welcome you?
Prosper, initially it was about welcoming myself.
Okay.
I think it is very important that we first and foremost develop a relationship with ourselves. Because when I'm deviating a little, because when we see someone judging us, then it is primarily a judgment that we hold against ourselves. So we're projecting quite a lot outside. When we blame the others, it's because deep inside, somewhere we're blaming ourselves. So when we're talking about being in relationships with the others, it's about first and foremost about having a relationship with ourselves. And you've often heard about when you're boarding a flight, you have to put on a mask on yourself first. Yes. So you have to tend to your own inner landscape first. When you've tended to that garden of yours, it's only then that you can bring about that support to the others. Otherwise, there'll always be a blame game. And so whenever I coach as well, I am least interested in what the partners did, whether it's men or women. I'm not interested on how they interacted with my clients. It's more about finding the golden nuggets in that relationship, because now that relationship has become a golden nugget for us to learn, not only just to heal ourselves, but also to see ourselves of how we showed up in that relationship. Were we able to express our needs? Were we able to resolve conflicts? Or were we a people pleaser? Or were we shoving all our conflicts under the carpet? What is it? How are we showing up in that relationship? So it's about understanding ourselves, and which is a lifelong journey. I mean, I still continue to work with my own coaches. It's like getting to know your blind spots. It's like peeling your own layers, because the deeper I can go with myself is the deeper I can take my own clients. And so I have to continually keep upgrading and upskilling myself and working with coaches so that I can take my clients that deep, so that we are in a position to express gratitude to that relationship because of the golden nuggets that it gives us in order to understand ourselves and in order to tend to our own inner landscape.
Absolutely, because whenever you point a finger at someone, one finger is pointing at that person and the rest of them are pointing back at you. So what are you then doing in order to facilitate an amicable exchange with whoever you're going to be dealing with? Now, I mean, Monica, as someone who has deeply invested, in your understanding of relationships and things of that nature, what are the critical aspects of maybe emotional intelligence in the dating scene that you actually want to emphasize that people take on? Because from what I'm realizing, you did put that story about the mask, that if you're not doing well yourself, don't expect other people to respond to you, because they are only giving you back that which you are projecting to them. So within the coaching that you taking people through, you can just maybe walk us through those aspects of emotional intelligence that you help your clients with.
Prosper, I firmly believe that once you've had a divorce, it is very, very important to do the inner work on ourselves. Because if you're not doing that, and people don't do that for a couple of reasons. After divorce, there is so much loneliness. So people want to get into the next relationship as fast as possible. Or they want to prove to their ex that they're still lovable and they found someone else. Sometimes culturally, there is a lot of pressure on you from family and friends to get into another relationship. However, the second divorce comes much faster than the first one. And the third divorce comes much faster even than the second one. I think so far as the statistics go, the second divorce comes 64% faster, and the third divorce comes, I think, 74 or 75% faster. So, and all this comes about because we haven't done our inner work. We have not understood our own relationship patterns or how we are showing up in a relationship. So we're going to be repeating those same patterns because neither have we healed from the previous relationship and nor have we done any work on ourselves. So it is important that when you are dating and you begin to date only after you are aware of yourself. Emotional intelligence plays a very important role there because first and foremost, it's about understanding our emotions. So emotional understanding is important. It's also important to manage our relationship, manage our emotions. So to understand our relationship, to understand our emotions, to manage those emotions, and then finally to express those emotions. So emotional intelligence plays a very important role, and that can come about if we have an understanding of our emotions. Most of us are so disconnected from our bodies that we don't feel our feelings, we don't feel our emotions. And therefore, when we are on a dating site, it's got nothing, when on a dating site or even when we are dating, it's got nothing to do with the other person. It's all about observing ourselves. How emotionally intelligent am I showing up in that relationship? If there is a difference of opinion, supposing during that dating time, it's about understanding your patterns. Why is this coming up? Why am I getting triggered? What do I have to learn from here? Because at that point in time, when we are dating, we become silly in love. There is an increase in our dopamine and serotonin. And so that's the time we don't even see the red flags in the other person. So I would highly recommend that at that point in time, getting in touch with our family and friends and introducing this person to them. And you don't have to take their feedback on board, but just in case that they can observe how you are showing up in that relationship with them. Similarly, if there is a conflict there, it's important to repair it. It's important to ensure that you're following that cycle, that there's a rupture, there's been a conflict, there's been some disagreement about something, that you are able to repair and then reconnect. That's how most of the relationships fall apart or they become dysfunctional, because we try, when there is a rupture, we get to reconnection instantly. We don't want to repair it because we are fearful that we might displease the other person, or we are fearful that we might get rejected. However, following that cycle of rupture, repair, and reconnection is very important. And at the same time, in any relationship, there are three entities in a relationship. It's you, the partner, and the relationship itself. So it's important that there is a win-win situation for everyone. Because if one person loses or is unable to express their needs or is unable to be vulnerable and is unable to express what they want, then the relationship has lost. The loss of one person is the loss of the relationship. And we need to ensure that there is a win-win situation for all the three parties involved. So when we are going in for dating, managing and being present, being curious, let that first year be the year of audition. And I'm not saying that you're testing the other person. No. It's just being open and curious to learn about the other person rather than giving some false permanence to the relationship immediately. So now you're working it out, being curious, learning about them, learning to see how you are showing up in the relationship.
Interesting, because I like how you said bring that partner to your family or your friends, just so they can see if you are maybe being overly excited or you're not really happy or you're not yourself. Because sometimes, like you said, people now end up doing people-pleasing tendencies just so that the other person feels like they are somewhat in control of whatever is happening, whereas you're stifling your own feelings, which one day, like a bottle of Coca-Cola, if you open it in a different direction, it then just explodes into something that both of you never wanted. But Monica, indulge me if you can with this. Somewhat, I feel like what you are now teaching people is, I don't know how to put this, but is somewhat of a rite of passage, which is basically when people are growing up, or in different cultures, you're brought in, and then there's a few elders within the clan that come, and then they start teaching you how to be a husband, how to be a wife, how to be a dad, or how to be a better citizen of that community. And you're proverbially tapped on the shoulder to signify that you are now ready to tackle a relationship or get into your own household. And maybe with what we have in maybe both the Indian sort of culture, the Western culture, or other cultures, no one is actually teaching people, like you said, especially in the schools, even in the household. No one is giving them that information, so much that it just comes back and backfires, because these people are still babies that are going through adult circumstances, but reacting like children or kids. And it's just fully grown babies that are out there posing as mothers and fathers with other babies in their hands. And what you are teaching people is sort of like that. Okay, yes, maybe you've gone through a divorce, or you are about to, but if you go through this rite of passage, you might actually be able to save your marriage or come out, knowing exactly what it is that you can do afterwards, or there's life post to that. Maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, you bring that quite correctly here on this platform. And I'd like to mention something here about the traditional roles that relationships have always had. So traditionally in our cultures, our roles are very well defined. Everyone knows the responsibilities of a father or a husband or a wife or mother-in-law or a father-in-law. Everyone knows that, and especially in our cultures. And this is another issue that's coming up these days, where when you are dating or when you get married, at that point in time, people come with certain expectations into that relationship based on what they have seen their parents or grandparents. Whereas now with the changing times, and as you mentioned, women are also working, there is a need to learn these relationship skills, because instead of coming into a relationship with expectations, it's about forming agreements, and which is a new concept to people. And they say, oh, how would agreements work? However, when we are setting agreements, and these agreements could be on for any reasons, it could be about how to raise children, or it could be about having a date night every Friday night, or on any from simple things to the bigger things, you can form agreements. Because when we are forming agreements, both the parties can co-author it, they can negotiate it, and then both of them are authentic in putting up on the table, this is what is possible for me and this is where I cannot go. So the idea of boundaries also comes in, and we can put that on the table and then give our word that, all right, we're going to support you on this platform, whatever agreement that you're following. Supposing it's about raising children, that I will support you with the lunch boxes. So you're forming an agreement that I will do the lunch boxes, you can get the children ready in the morning, and you form that agreement. Once people give their word, it's difficult to go back. And even if the agreement falls, it doesn't matter. You're both learning. You tried. You can try again. It didn't work out the first time. It might work the next time. So it's important to be learning to incorporate those skills in our lives now, because of the roles that have changed. And so getting agreements in, or let's say setting boundaries, those are the two things that I mentioned. Because when we are in abusive relationships, the first thing that we don't do, and we don't do it for lifetime, is set boundaries. Because we feel that once we've set a boundary, we will be rejected. No is a complete sentence. And it is hard for us to say that no, because what if we are rejected? What if? And then just because we don't want to say that no, we are constantly on that treadmill trying to please everyone in the family, where then there are heaps of resentments that build up in the relationship. So that's what I'd like to emphasize here.
Fantastic. So you've actually gone on and written 2 books. I think one of them is How Do You Know He's the One? And How to Heal from a Toxic Relationship. I should verify that. Yes, How to Heal from a Toxic Relationship. Where can people get these books?
Both these books are available on Amazon. And if people are interested, they can email to me as well, and I can personally sign them and send them copies. I am more than happy to do that. Otherwise, both these are available on Amazon, so you can buy them from there.
Fantastic. And also, how else can people, some people might be going through stuff. How can they get a hold of you and maybe get started on your programs?
So they can visit my website. It's monicakalracoaching@gmail.com. However, that's my email. And my website is monicakalracoaching.com. I am in the process of creating another website, which will be called revorce.com.au, which is still in the pipeline and it's coming up. People can get in touch with me on LinkedIn and also on Facebook. So I'm available on a couple of platforms. I'm available even on Instagram. So they can get in touch with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or on Facebook. And yes, I would be more than delighted to assist you whilst you walk on this path.
Fantastic. I'll definitely put all those links in the show notes below so that people can get a hold of that. But I gotta ask you, Monica, what is it that drives your persistence and the courage and resilience and maybe patience up until you earn the nickname? I think you gentle tank, or the lady with the iron fist in a velvet glove, because what you are tackling is bigger than you. This is 7 lifetimes that you are single-handedly trying to correct.
Prosper, I would like to understand that too. However, I have a feeling that the universe wants me to do this work. There are times when I feel I've taken on a lot more than what I can do because I'm going upstream. And then I'm constantly reminded of Gandhi, because when Gandhi wanted to get independence for India, at that time he was going against the stream. And I'm sure people must have questioned him as to why and how he was going to shake off the British Empire. And I somehow feel the same about myself, that I am trying to go upstream by normalizing divorce, by speaking up about it, and by being a living example for everyone. But I feel that there's this universal power who wants me to take this on and walk on this path.
Fantastic. Maybe, obviously, because we know you're already a success story of what it is that you're doing, but maybe can you share a success story from your workshops? Because somebody might be listening to this right now and just thinking, this doesn't happen in our culture. I don't know what Kool-Aid Monica is drinking. No other people are going through this or are gonna accept or take this on. Maybe if you can maybe share, without sharing names or situations to protect the innocent, but something that came out of your coaching sessions that really exemplifies the positive impact that you're making with this work.
Prosper, the changes that are coming about in people's lives, in the clients' hearts that I touch, is just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal to see them blossom. I mean, they come to me, with their frustrations, with being a victim of the situations. They come to me where they're creating triangles. They come to me where they are in these manipulative relationships. And thereafter, the journey that we undertake over the time period that they work with me, some of my clients have been working with me for 2 years, for 2.5 years. It's just amazing and heartwarming to see the transformation that I see in each one of them, where some people begin establishing their own businesses. Some begin to assist their children by helping them to form agreements with them or setting boundaries with them, teaching the techniques that I teach them in order to come into the present moment. So I feel that I am not only doing this work with the clients, but I'm also somehow deep down, this is also helping the next generation. So we're bringing about a change in our future generations by doing this work for ourselves, and at the same time healing our previous generations as well, by putting an end to the abuse that we have faced, so that this no longer continues in the future.
I just wish there would be a stronger ground for you to stand on, because what you're pushing is like a whole world, the past, the present, and the future. You must be tired.
I have a long way to go.
Let's take you back a little bit, Monica. At the start of the 21 years, obviously when people, or when, let me put it in a metaphor. So when you put a seed in the ground and you cover it with soil, because it doesn't know any better, it thinks it is being buried. But after a couple of weeks, that seed was not buried, it was planted. And it's unknown to the seed planter how many apples are going to be bared from that seed itself. You took that 21-year journey. If you would have come across a coach like you at that time, what would you have wanted that coach to say to you, Monica?
Prosper, I've had coaches like that who've taken me on this journey. I'm immensely grateful to my therapist who took me on this journey. As I mentioned to you earlier, that I'd lost all my identity, I had lost all confidence, I had lost all power in myself. It was my therapist who stood by me I was in therapy for 3 years. And the phenomenal work that he did with me was absolutely amazing. I'm still in touch with him, and I'm so grateful that his ripples live through me, and obviously through me into my clients as well. So, and in saying that, I would also like to reiterate that there are many coaches out there, or many therapists out there, who are not doing the right thing. I had to go through 5 therapists before I decided on this one. Because coming from the Indian culture, it was hard for me, firstly, to approach a coach or approach a therapist. Because the first time I went to see a therapist, I parked my car 3 lanes down the street so that no one saw me going to see a therapist. I saw one woman after the other. I only wanted to approach the women therapists because I thought that would be comfortable. However, there was always something or the other in my interaction with them that I felt this was not for me. There was one who would continuously keep looking at her watch. There was another who said, "Would you stick by your story after 10 years?" It was like as though I was telling lies about what I had experienced. So many such experiences. And going to a male therapist was out of question, because how could I open about my life to a male therapist? However, once I found him, it was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal on how he stood. He was my rock during that time, in going through that journey. And I am immensely grateful to him that there are people like him who are making such a huge difference in the lives of people like me.
So what can you say to a younger Monica out there who's going through stuff and hasn't found their own therapies themselves?
I would say that they are more than welcome to get in touch with me, because they will find that solid grounding in me, in the work that I have done, and at the same time, the expertise that I have. And if I have to look back to the little girl that I was 21 years ago, before I got married, it's about ensuring that you do your inner work at that time. You get to learn about the red flags. And for that matter, the book, How Do You Know He's the One, mentions 10 deceptive behaviors along with positive traits that must exist in a relationship. So if they can read that book, it tells you about so many types of red flags that you can see in a relationship. So equipping yourself with all those, and even the other book, How to Heal from a Toxic Relationship, it gives you so many tools and strategies on how you can connect with yourself and also with the others. So if you do your inner work first before you get into a relationship, things will be much easier for you to know about the red flags, and also to know about yourself and how you can show up in your relationship.
Fantastic. Well, Monica, you've built a thriving coaching business despite all societal norms, despite anything that could have shut you down, and despite everything that was weighing on your shoulders. What can people expect now moving forward from you? And now that people have been welcomed into your world, what can we expect in the future?
they can expect a lot many things. I want to be able to reach out to as many professional women of color all over the world. And especially in the Western cultures, it is very difficult to find someone who understands your culture. I've had clients who've been to the other psychologists, and they tell me that it takes almost 6 sessions to explain to them about our culture. Whereas here I am, who already understands that culture, and I can just take you on from the first session onwards because I've experienced it and I know it. So in the days to come, I see myself being a world coach. I'm already training people in the other countries, but I see myself being the name that people can absolutely relate with and also to get in touch with, to ensure that they are in the presence of someone like me who's non-judgmental and who's very, very empathetic and patient.
Now, Carla, Monica, I'm going to ask you this question that you were asked by one of your therapists. Are you going to stick to this story in the next 10 years?
I certainly will. I will stick to my story. I have stuck to my grounds and I will continue to do so because that's what makes my roots go deeper and at the same time stronger.
Oh, fantastic. Well, there you have it, folks. What an inspiring conversation with Monica, the founder of Revorce, who's making a significant impact in empowering women through divorce and relationship coaching. Now, Monica, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Prosper. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you want to connect with Monica and explore her coaching services or just dive into her insightful books, if you're not quite ready to see someone as yet, all the information will be in the show notes below here. And Monica, I can't thank you enough for being with us today and sharing your journey, your life story, and your expertise, because I know this is going to change a lot of people's lives. And not only are you doing it for yourself, but you're sending the elevator down for all the other ones that can't, speak up for themselves. So on behalf of everybody else who's going to be at least able to come across the work that you're doing, thank you in advance.
Thank you so much, Prosper. Thank you.
Fantastic. Until next time, this has been Prosper on the Online Prosperity Show. We're signing off. Bye for now.